Welcome to the downside.
Wow.
My name's Gianmarco Soresi. I'm just jumping in now.
Yeah, you are.
What'd you normally do?
I was in
Not
the
jump
bathroom when you were like, so here's how this works. And then the door shut.
Yeah.
No, you'll figure it out. You're talented.
Let me guess. Is it we talk to you for an hour and a half like every podcast?
Yeah, but with like a light theme of negativity.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Which I feel like Nick will be on board for. Brian, we're gonna have to bring it down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nick jumps to negativity a little quicker than I do.
Yeah.
You sort of live in that world.
But that's kind of our
flawlessly.
balance too.
Oh, good.
You know?
Yeah.
It's also, I wonder about if this is true for you. I deeply enjoy negativity. I actually think I'm a pretty optimistic person. And I enjoy being negative for the fun of it.
I 100% agree. I
So-
think complaining, sometimes you
It
complain
connects
something
people.
to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know,
Oh, a
there-
shared enemy?
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
nothing better.
There's something interesting here because Guy Branum has a joke that I really like about how he has his music taste is like really poppy, fun music, which is like my music taste. And everyone always made fun of his music taste. And his whole bit is like, my life is so dark. This is what I need.
Yeah. Sure.
And it's like Nick listens to like emo sad boy music. And for me,
Yes,
it's like,
sad boy music and lesbian folk singers.
okay,
Oh,
so
okay.
if I listen to two sad boy music, I'm like, I already have this sort of in me. I need to be listening to Weird Al musicals all the time because that needs to like pep me up because I kind of just like that keeps me, you know, just sort of in this mood. And
You
if
listen to his like polka montages.
oh, I know all of them by
Yeah.
heart. Of course I
Yeah.
do.
Running with Scissors. I own that album.
That was a classic when we were about 12 years old. That was like
The disdain in Brian's voice of like, Running with Scissors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
that
think I
basic bitch album.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh
I
yeah.
don't know
Okay,
the
okay.
deep cut
Let me
running with
guess.
scissors.
Oh, you also like Let It Be.
Well, let me just say real quick. I should have said this earlier. This episode is coming out July 23rd. So politically, let's think optimistically and let's predict the future.
So Biden's out of the race by then.
yeah, Biden's out of the race. Hopefully, America has collapsed.
Did you
Yeah.
guys watch it? The debate?
Do we watch it? Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
saw
but
clips
imagine
after.
let's
Let's
zoom
imagine
let's
it's
zoom
not-
to July 23rd though and be like, if someone's listening and they go, oh fuck, we're talking about the debate.
Oh,
again.
yeah. Let's
Oh,
not.
yeah.
You're right.
But we can.
Let's turn
It
it
was
down on
bad.
this.
Oh, here's what I'll say. This.
Can we turn down my
Here's-
headphones a little
I was
bit?
just going to ask
sure.
the exact
Yeah.
same thing.
Great.
Yeah, I guess we should do a little check-in before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I will say is that I recorded like a 15-minute mini special
Okay.
that opened with a Biden joke, and I was going to release it at the end of August. I thought I'd release it at the end of August.
Yeah.
I'm out with my girlfriend for dinner, and our friend Chris, he believes in the system.
He really does.
Believes in the system.
Okay.
And he texted the group. He said Biden needs to drop out, and I said, oh,
He's like the person that would never,
say that.
Would never
would
say
never
something
say
like
that.
Yeah.
And
He texted us and we were both like,
Oh, God,
we were
it's-
Well,
watching.
the
I was like,
number
It's
of
happening.
articles that have come out of people like, did you see the cover of Time?
yeah.
What
oh
was it?
yeah,
It's,
he's walking off into the abyss of death.
It's
it's
nothing but
panic?
red. It's a red hellscape, and he's walking off, and it's the word panic. And it's just like, whoa. That even was too far for me, where I was like, well, hang on. Like,
Well, let's make a bold prediction. This is coming out. I say he's dropped out.
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. They're both. It's
I-
kind of 50-50, but I'm going to say he's replaced. I'll go there.
I say he's
I
replaced.
think that we might have to push more to do it.
Oh, I
Like,
see.
and I think
I think he's
maybe
gonna
literally.
what I've heard is that that nobody is donating anymore.
Yes,
that
sure.
people
Heard that
are
today.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
And that's what
Because-
that's what made me go, oh, that's gonna do it.
'Cause
But
I-
I do think if it hasn't happened by July 23rd, I don't think it's happening unless he dies.
I think
When's
it's
the
happening
convention? When's the in Chicago? When is that?
mid-August.
Oh, okay.
I was
Yeah,
looking at
might-
that too
it
for
might
the
be,
special release.
yeah.
It's
That day.
it's always so strange to look at the whole end of America through the scope of me releasing a 15-minute
joke
YouTube
will
video. But that's all it was.
Got this content lined up.
you know.
It was so stressful though. My girlfriend and I, you know my girlfriend, and we were watching the way that we process like trauma is we were just looking at Twitter and just trying to laugh. Like
Yeah.
that's how we process our trauma.
I'm
Yeah.
fully disassociating.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
so-
actually pretty stress-free about the whole thing because
Here's-
I'm like, it's not happening to me.
Wait, can I tell?
It's happening to my
Here's
body.
what I saw from the perspective. We were at some
Yeah.
bar, me, Nick, and like 8 other people. Your brother, your dad were there, and it was like there's a big TV, and we're like, oh, we're just gonna watch it here. This is perfect. We're like, and it came on in an hour. We're like, let's do a drinking game, and we all like wrote little rules for
Oh
it.
my God.
We're all so giggly.
This
and
will be
happy.
a romp.
Yes. It starts, everyone just goes quiet, and it's just like staring at the screen for 45 minutes. At 9:45, Nick's 3 beers deep. He's just like looking on his phone. He goes,
I was drinking Aperol spritzes. Let's just,
oh, excuse me.
if we're going to report it, let's report it
9:45 p.m.
accurately.
Nick goes, all right, I'm going to go see Furiosa. And leaves the table and goes to watch Furiosa by himself at 10 p.m.
What I wanted was to comfort myself with an apocalyptic hellscape.
Yeah.
Because I'd be like, oh, this is nice. This is a nice change from a better
You were the
improvement
only
on the
person
world we're living in.
in the theater.
Yes, and also what should be clear is like pretty much everyone at this table was a guest of me.
Of you. I was like, your dad and your brother were there.
That's true.
My dad, my brother, my brother's friends. Brian's met most of them that night. Knows my dad and my brother, and I'm like, good luck, everyone.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were for the 2016 election? I was at a comedy show.
Oh, yeah.
I was at Littlefield.
Yeah.
It was like Pop Roulette and a bunch of other comedy things. And they were still going on while they were showing the results in the other room. Everyone was so confident.
Oh my God.
And I just remember I will never forget the gradual, people leaving the show, moving
Yeah.
to the other
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
I made out with someone that I didn't really
Oh my
wasn't
God.
into, but I was like, I wanted to feel.
So I feel something.
And it was
gotta
the worst
medicate
kiss of
myself
it was the worst
with-
kiss of my life.
Yeah, of
It was
course.
like, and then people were crying. Newly married gay couples were sitting, going, "It's over."
Yeah.
I mean, it was dark.
It was over.
It was dark.
I mean, the
It was,
election night
uh,
is a Tuesday night, and so
Oh,
is
right.
writing night at SNL, which is where
Yeah.
we were. So you're up
Holy
all night
shit.
Tuesday night.
It was.
Wait, is that Dave Chappelle?
Yes,
Yes.
Chappelle was there, like
Yes.
wandering from room to room, like
Yeah.
watching our TVs with us, being like,
It's also so funny
I knew
because
this was
it's
gonna
like
happen.
I was, massive fan of Dave Chappelle since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And you meet with the host that Tuesday writing night, and he comes into our room, and I've never wanted anyone to leave our room quicker than
Yeah.
like
I've never
my
s-
comedy hero,
Yeah.
because he just
He-
kept being like, it was a terrible choice. We had a terrible candidate. Like, it's fucked up. And I was just like, I can't, because it was still like early. Was like, maybe there's still some hope.
Yeah.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like also
he was like breaking all
slow-
that for you.
we
Yeah,
were like,
yeah.
we were pitching sketches to him, and he would
Yeah.
always just go, "No." And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't think he likes us at all, or any of
Yeah.
our sketch ideas.
We
But
pitched
then-
one idea that he liked. There's a full tangent, but it was.
What was it?
It was Eyes Wide Shut parody. Instead of like a blindfolded
Yeah.
pianist, you're a blindfolded stand-up. Like you're doing a corporate gig, but it's an Eyes Wide Shut orgy.
You don't know that you're there.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we all these like I think the head writers had a Hillary cold open and
Yeah.
Hillary like everyone's just sort of assuming we had Hillary has
Do you
want
want to claim ownership
sketches.
of the Hillary playing?
Well,
Yeah, we told
Hallelujah?
Kate, listen, you don't. She didn't know how to play
That
piano,
was
and I
us.
taught her, and that was all Kate.
well, what's funny about that sketch? I don't know. I don't want to get too much into this.
Wait,
but
we're
like,
gonna call it a sketch?
Yeah, what's funny about it?
Yeah, tell me. I've been dying to
About Kate
know.
crying, playing the piano.
that was never at the table read. That was something that was added. None of the writers knew that was happening.
Oh.
There was a bunch of different, because they didn't really know what to do for the cold open. So there was a bunch of different ideas being thrown out. That was not one of them.
I think you should have had Trump back on.
I agree.
Yeah.
We kept trying to push that.
Yeah, get him.
So tell me how that happened.
What, the Hillary
yeah, what-
cold open?
I don't remember. I don't.
I mean, we
think-
kind of saw it with everybody
I
else.
mean, we were new writers at
We
the
saw
time,
it
so
at
we were
dress
shut out from
rehearsal.
almost all rooms. Like when you're a new writer,
Yeah.
you're treated
It's
like
just crazy
absolute
that she
scum.
played it as Hillary. I listen. I had
yeah.
the
Look,
here's
sticker
the
on my
thing.
laptop. I'm with her. I was depressed. But the little bit of shtick added onto it was so
Yeah.
strange.
Look,
I remember
everyone.
I was-
you're underslept at that job, and
no
you
one
have
knows
to
what
write a
choice
show.
they're making ever at
Yeah.
that job.
In
I remember
2 days.
I was talking to Kate right before she went on, and she was like blowing her nose and like drinking water, and I was like, "How do you feel right now?" And she was like I'm about to take a big fucking swing. And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. You are. That's very true. Good luck. I'm not doing it." But yeah, that was a weird week, along with all weeks
Weird.
there. I mean, every
Yeah.
week is impossible there. Don't do it. Don't go. That's my advice to young writers and comedians. I'm like, people are like, I'm working on my tape, or like, I'm going to test. And I'm like, here's my advice. Don't do it. But if you get chosen to go, you have to go. Like, that's the thing. You have to do it, and also don't do it. That's it.
Listen, I'm not submitting this year. You're submitting.
Yeah, don't
So-
do it. You're going to have to do it if you go. You
Yeah.
have to,
I
but
mean,
don't
hey,
do it.
It would help the podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm pro.
That's my first and foremost.
You're just hoping you can meet Nikki Haley. That's your main.
So true. Yes.
I've always pegged you for Nikki Haley.
Let's just because I want to leave. We've had so many SNL people on because they're on a break right now.
Yeah.
When you were in the bathroom, one of the things I asked is the alien story. You shared with me the alien costume story.
Oh,
From the
yeah.
Thanksgiving episode.
Yeah.
Can you tell me?
Yeah. Sure.
We were in the monologue. Kristen Wiig hosted the Thanksgiving episode.
Okay, Brian will tell it.
I'm gonna throw it to you. And so we were in the monologue, and Nick was an alien in the monologue, and I was a wise man. There's just all these like random characters. Problem was Nick's makeup.
Yeah. So they would sometimes ask you, they sometimes have the writers tag in.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, can you play an alien in the monologue? And I was like, yeah, sure. Great. I never said no once the entire time I was there. Just, yes, whatever I need to do. And I go down to makeup, and they're like, cool, we're going to put you in this makeup, and then, we'll come back after dress rehearsal, we'll take you out of it, and then we'll put you in it again for the show. And I was like, great. And the makeup takes about an hour to get put in, and it is like way more involved than what I thought it was going to be. I'm painted blue. I have a big blue prosthetic head, and they're like
round.
Yeah, it's huge, and I'm like, boy, this takes a long time. They do it. We do the dress rehearsal. I go back to get it taken off, and they're like, oh, you know what? It's just so much trouble. We're just going to leave you in it for the show. And I was like, okay, please don't do that, because one, the writers during the show, in between dress rehearsal and the show, you go to Lorne's office. Everyone, all the department heads, all the writers, all the cast, the host, everyone is in Lorne's office. Everyone who's not in the cast is wearing suits. Like writers dress up wearing suits. Everyone looks normal. I'm like, I cannot go in that room. You also have like reserved spots in the room.
Yeah.
Mine is the most centermost spot in the room.
And it's the most sober air too, because
Yeah.
it's Lorne just going piece by piece. And if your
Cutting
sketch doesn't work,
sketches.
he's talking to you when you have to have like a response
Yeah.
like that for him. And it's like no one's laughing. It's just very, very. It's dark.
Yeah.
And it's like this was the cold open you're in. So you do that in the dress rehearsal at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
and you were there for just hours. And
it was the monologue, but yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm not going in. They're like, too bad you have to stay in the makeup. So I'm just like, I'm not going to go in the room. I have to just kind of hang back. And I sort of just am staying outside the room, and different people are like looking at me, weird. And then I start to get a little bit of courage as like the meeting's going on, and I start to kind of like creep in and lean into the room, and I make eye contact with Beck Bennett, who is like an old buddy of mine, and I see him from across the room. He's just kind of like checked out and out of it, and I see him, and then he sees me, and he kind of like reacts, and then I just slowly see his phone come up, and he takes a photo, and I'll see if I can find the photo.
Is it better to show it, just send it to him later, or do you want to show it to
You
the
do
camera?
both. We'll get it later too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also in the photo, just like staring at Lorne, like complete. Like you are not my comedy partner in this moment. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. What a crazy man dressed as an alien.
Yeah.
For this, how dare he?
Are there ever? That is so funny. Are there any times that meeting is not the worst thing in the world? Like,
I mean, if Lorne's in a good mood, I guess that.
If you have
but
a
they have to cut
sketch,
stuff anyways. They always have to cut
if your
stuff.
sketch is going and it did great at dress, you're gonna have a
Yeah.
great
Then it's
time.
incredible.
And,
Yeah.
because Lorne will have very few notes, or it's gonna be
Yeah.
great. If your sketch is on the side, which means it's cut, means nobody talks about it. You never mention it again.
Oh, wow.
You don't have any
Okay.
mourning period. It's just gone, and you're just there.
So it's mainly like the ones that they're like, we have to fix this somehow.
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
next-
Yeah, we kind of go through what the show will be, and it's just like a few notes. Like you only have a few minutes really to kind of like get the notes and understand how it's going to work and move on.
If you were to see Lorne on the street now, would you go, hey?
I don't think he'd.
no.
Literally
Hey, Big Al.
Monday pitch. He goes person by person. You basically pitch a sketch. You sit on the floor. The host sits in a chair, and he'll be Gianmarco, and you pitch a sketch to the host, and the host doesn't laugh, and neither does anyone else, and it moves on. It's terrible. But he would always call me Nick and Nick Brian. Like it was just so like.
And we corrected him zero times.
Never. I'd just be like, "Hello, Margot Robbie.
Yes.
I am Nick. What if you were a hippopotamus?"
Okay, so here's the photo. So you've got like this is from Beck's phone in the middle of the room. You've got like there's Keenan, there's Streeter Seidel, there's Kristen Wiig, Alec Baldwin is like somewhere around in
Lawrence
here.
to the right.
There's Brian, and then if we gently zoom in on the upper left hand, you see me
so funny.
scared out of my mind,
This is the
praying
downside.
that no one will talk to me.
Ooh, commercial.
Theme song.
Theme song.
You're listening to The Downside
This is a long cold open we just did.
with Gianmarco Soresi.
Yeah, in the fashion of SNL.
That was great.
Welcome.
They're too long. They're too long.
And by the way, we talked
Look,
about
the Hillary-
dated politics.
I know, there you
We
go.
did it all,
did
baby.
We're
did
back
it.
at SNL.
Yeah.
In defense of the Hillary Hallelujah thing, it was very short.
We got in and out. Yeah.
Oh man. And you look back on the Rudy Giuliani too. Rudy Giuliani was the guy that apparently made comedy at
okay
post
again.
9/11,
Yeah.
and it's just like, and it was like that was Rudy Giuliani.
That was Rudy.
That
What
was,
happened to that man?
Yeah.
I mean, it was always there.
It was
nothing
there.
happened.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
It did
We
get
just
worse a little. It seemingly got
It got
more
a lot
unhinged.
funnier.
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, welcome to the Downside. For those listening for the first time, this is a place where we celebrate negativity. We complain, we bitch, we moan, we kvetch. I'm here with my co-host Russell Daniels.
Hi.
If you're a fan of the show, join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. We actually today we're starting our live tour, and footage of that will be exclusively on the Patreon.
Oh yeah, today.
But today, very happy to have two phenomenal guests, two guests that I truly consumed right as I was getting into comedy, like really, like the love stage of comedy before
Yeah.
you hate it with every fiber of your being. Brian and Nick from BriTANick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us,
Thank
guys.
you.
for being here.
Happy to be here.
I mean, I was getting because I didn't get really. I was just acting. I was an actor,
Yeah.
and then like 2015 ish. Is that when we did Bachelorette
Yeah.
show?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
when I started like getting into comedy, and it was like I just would watch all the College Humor sketches,
Yeah.
all of your guys' sketches, all the above average. Lonnie, super into. I remember reading your piece. What's your friend who wrote Big Time in Hollywood,
Alex?
Florida?
Alex and
Like I
Vander.
loved Big Time in Hollywood, Florida. I was
So
and then
good.
I remember reading like your article
Oh yeah.
about whenever your friend whenever you're him talking to your father, yelling at you that he's not proud of you. You made it deeply personal.
Yeah, I wrote.
What was this?
It was something. The New York Observer. I'd written an article
yeah.
for them before, and then they reached out to me and were like, "We love that article. Do you have anything more you want?" Like some editor reached out and was like, "I loved what you had written like months ago. Do you have anything in the TV world you would want to write?" And I was like, not really. And then I was like, oh, I could write this thing about my friend's show that's on the air. And I wrote, I made it deep. It was a review or a please go watch this show, but I did make it very deeply personal because I was talking about my issues with jealousy with the show because we had a Comedy Central pilot, the like cycle after theirs.
Yeah.
And so we were filming our pilot at the same time they had just finished shooting their first season. And so I watched, and then we watched our pilot, and I was really disappointed in how our pilot, we didn't get to direct our pilot, and we weren't thrilled with how it turned
This
out.
was with Natalie Palamides?
Yes.
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 It's her first
she
job.
was cast
Yeah.
as my little sister.
Oh,
We
Her first
discovered
job.
Natalie
Yeah.
Palamides.
you guys have it somewhere?
Yeah.
You got a link somewhere?
Yeah, we got a private Vimeo
I mean,
link.
we've got a private Vimeo
We've been
link.
thinking
Like that
about-
shit. What's going to happen?
We've been thinking about
what's
putting
going to happen.
Right, like Comedy Central's not going to fucking sue us,
No
right?
one's going to sue. You know,
Who could?
But
Who
do
who's
they
there?
want it?
Chris,
Yeah.
Chris
They said they-
DiStefano,
Yeah.
comic, we did a pilot for CBS or something. He just put it on YouTube.
We should just do that.
And
Yeah.
his manager, we had the same manager back in the day, and I said, "Is that allowed?" And he was like, "No, I told him not to do it. Nothing happened."
Yeah, I think we should just.
That's
I
put it
would
on.
not-
watch that in a heartbeat.
I
That's
think we should
not
put
what
it
I'm
on.
worried about. I don't
doesn't
like it.
like
I
that.
don't.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: enough people. We've shown it to enough friends, and enough people have been like, "It's great, guys.
Yeah.
It's
For
not,
fans of you, it would be fascinating.
and I think writing wise, I think it's really good. I think it's
Yeah.
really well
if you're
written.
if you're a Louis C.K. fan, you watch Lucky Lou, his HBO show,
Yeah.
even though it was because it's fascinating.
Yeah, and I think we give a little intro. We go, hi, we're Brian and Nick. We're 10 years later. This is a show. We give a little bit of a whatever. This is whatever. And then it's fine.
That's
Fucking release
that's
it.
not gonna work well because in the show they made us do an intro to this.
We don't do that. We just cut that out.
scripted single cam
Everyone
show.
says cut that out. We just cut that out
Yeah.
and we're good.
What is it like
Yeah.
meta?
Yeah.
They were like,
I'll tell you, it was
this
crazy.
is like we were like when we were going through the script process with them. We were sort of it was our first script I guess we'd sold, and we were like desperately trying to just be like little good boys. So we took every single note that they
Yeah.
gave,
Yeah.
and one of them was, America won't really know who you are. What if you do something talking to the camera?
Key and Peele was very popular. So it's
Yeah.
like, we love how they come out and talk to the audience.
Sure.
We're like, well, this is like a sitcom. So how do we do that?
Yeah,
So
and we were like, sure, great, we'll just put that in. Even though what we should have said is no,
That's
it's
ridiculous.
a single camera
Yeah.
sitcom.
Do you play yourselves in the show?
We play Brian and Nick, but like not a heightened version of
Yeah.
us.
Sure.
But this is like
Yeah.
real us. And what we did was we called the first episode Girlfriends because it was about us breaking up and getting back together with
Yeah.
girls. And we
Yeah.
we had all of our ex-girlfriends fly to LA. We got in a white room with them, like a void.
Yeah, the
And-
idea
and
was
we like kind of chatted with them. And
well, the idea was we scripted it because we were like, the joke was that we would talk
Yeah.
to the camera and we would say like, "Hi, we're Brian and Nick." So for like this episode, tonight's episode is girlfriends or is relationships. So we thought it'd be cathartic to get all our real life ex-girlfriends together in one room.
there they are.
We cut to
Joint-
them, and then we had scripted all these bits where they are insulting the show every time we cut back to them, and they're pointing out plot holes, and we're getting annoyed at them.
Oh yeah.
And then Comedy Central was like, no, don't do that. Like, have it just be real. Like, just talk to them. And we were, and so,
So we did that. We,
but
For those who can't hear, our producer made an audible. Oh, God.
well, and another thing to know is that like, so Brian at this stage in his life had dated someone in third grade,
sixth grade.
sixth
For a
grade
day.
for one day.
Yeah.
And then another girl he was like still actively like friends with, or like
Yeah.
was certainly a friend. I don't know what the
I am-
stage of your
I am
relationship was.
Chronically not in a relationship, and Nick chronically is. So it's like
So I had way more girlfriends that
was
was
like-
like way more
that's
intense
what I was
with.
gonna I had to, like, kind of reach to be like,
balance.
I
Yeah.
hadn't spoken to any of them since the
Nick,
breakup.
Nick was like nervous on set.
Yeah,
and
you're
I was
like,
like,
"Oh,
yeah,
hi,
hey, what's
nice
up?
to
It's
see
good to
you."
see you.
Do you
Like,
know-
this is awesome.
Yeah.
Megan Nuringer, comedy
think
writer.
so.
She'd been sort of recommended of like, we've got some extra money, like hire her to help punch up or whatever, help out with the script. So she was there. I remember her coming up in between takes where we're just like improvising with all these girls who are like, one was an actor, two were actors, and the rest were not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, she was like, pulled me aside and was like, Nick, you look miserable. You look like you're being tortured.
You did.
And I was like, I am.
Yeah.
This is not fun.
Yeah.
This is intensely stressful.
remember
Did
the
anyone
funny
say
part-
no? Did anyone say no, or did they all came?
One initially said
Yeah,
no, and then
my-
I talked her into it.
Okay.
My big one said no.
Your big one. said no.
was the
From high school, you know who we're talking about. Hard no.
Oh yeah.
She like works in the industry now. But I remember at the end, our director was like, "All right, now boys, go give them hugs. That's like the last thing. You guys are friends with them now." So I
Yeah.
ran over and gave her one hug, and you like walked over and like stopped and like
Hello. Good to see
Zoe
you.
was like, "What the fuck? Just give us a hug," and you were
Yeah.
like, "No, I don't
Yeah,
want to."
Zoe was actually great in it. Like that was like my biggest relationship.
Yeah.
And also kind of maybe not the most fresh, but like definitely the most intense. And she's like really, really funny. And she was like giving me a really hard, like she was great on camera. Like all of
Yeah.
the usable stuff is hers. We also filmed for like 2 hours. We had 17 usable seconds.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
This is a lot. Were you in a relationship when you were doing this, or were both you single at the time?
I was single.
I
at the
was
time.
single.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. I just can't imagine.
Yeah, you.
I went to my girlfriend
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, we have this shoot idea."
No.
All my ex-girlfriends and
You know, I
I
hate it when I talk to one ex-girlfriend. What if I got all of them together?
All together.
pay them all scale.
That's a bad
I
dream.
flew him out.
There's a part of me though that sounds like it would be fascinating,
Yeah, we were in.
But it's not really what we.
But it's not
we
related
do.
at all
and
to
you weren't
the.
established
the
yet
thing.
in the eye of the
Yes.
viewer. So you don't need to see someone torn down until you know them.
And it's also
Well, it's also-
you only
I-
have 22 minutes for this episode, and it's like
Yeah.
it's such real estate, and we're like, what do we have to do with our dad's next episode? And then like our because we're always gonna have like a new person in our life, I guess, in these like white void.
I could see that with my dad, and they'd be like, "Hug your dad."
Yeah.
No.
It also was like, I think it would have been okay if we'd just done the scripted stuff. They just didn't like it because it was meta. Comedy Central wasn't into it, but I was like, that was like kind of funny and made sense. It's just like we're not Nathan Fielder, like we're not good at like man on the street,
Yeah.
like just like creating an awkward moment and like existing in it. We script out stuff and spend a long time on it, so it was really not in our element.
So how do you? Because I've always dreamed of having like a really good comedy partner. How do you deal with? How do you guys react when there's like when you found out the day it's not getting picked up? Like how do you react differently? Do you mourn together? Do you separate for your mourning?
Yeah, we've had some big like that. Us getting fired from SNL. There have been some big like mourning moments. I mean, it's definitely nicer with a partner because you can kind of pick up the pieces and move on pretty quick. And it's like, I think if you're by yourself and you get a big rejection, you feel like no one wants you. And with a partner,
Yeah.
you're like, well, at least this guy didn't fire me.
They mostly
so
didn't like Brian.
We just pretend that
You
it's the other
can
person.
do some mental gymnastics. I mean, I think for me at least, I kind of mourn separately. Like specifically, both of those, both getting fired from SNL and the pilot not getting picked up. The pilot not getting picked up was really hard. It was like our first failure in a way.
Yeah.
Like we'd had some
Yeah, yeah,
minor
yeah.
ones, but it's like we'd been on this trajectory and it was like everything had been to get a Comedy Central pilot and then get a show. It was like that was our singular focus. And we had tried selling them a script before and they hadn't taken that. But so that wasn't, it was like a failure, but not, it was like, it's still a possibility.
Yeah.
And then this felt like, oh, this road is fully closed for forever. I mean, we had a pilot there 6 years later, so it obviously
Yeah.
wasn't. But
Yeah.
Right.
at the time, it felt like that. So it felt like this might be the end of the career,
Right.
kind of.
But I will say also, it does feel like with us, one person kind of takes one emotion and the other person sort of balances it out. Like
Yeah.
if someone freaks out about something, the other person naturally won't freak out. They'll kind of be like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Like it's like relationships are kind of like that, where both people can't be like in despair or like going crazy. It's like we kind of feel what the other person is feeling sometimes and
Sure.
just sort of find the balance of it.
We had, I think it'd be okay if I talked about it. My friend Douglas and I, we react very differently to live show things. Like, because I think also because of stand up compared to sketch, I do it every night. So it's just like, if I have a bad one, I will have another one literally the next day.
Yeah.
Or like 45 minutes
Or
later.
45
Yeah.
minutes later.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Which
given
is
me,
different if you're doing a sketch show. Like,
yeah.
you know.
And over yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had one show where it's just rough audience, and it was like we all flew there. It was a thing,
Right.
And sometimes the mode would be, I'm already like fuck man,
Yeah.
fuck,
Yeah.
And for some others in the group, it's like, good show,
Yeah.
show,
Yeah,
and
that kind
then
of thing.
later at the bar,
You and I are
someone-
very similar.
We're very similar.
We're like in that way. We're like, no,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
shit. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And then later in the bar, like a couple hours, someone goes, yeah, that one, that didn't.
Yeah.
And like you see them come down from it.
Right, right.
But right out the gate, I think I'm in that dark place. And if someone's like, hey, that was good, I want to be
Yeah.
like, are we going to, so we're going to lie? We're going to lie.
Right.
We're just going to lie and get through life with lying to ourselves.
Well, it's interesting also with us when we perform live. Sometimes, typically I think we're pretty synced up, but like there will definitely be times where it's like I'll feel good about my performance and Brian will feel
Sure.
bad about his and vice versa.
Yeah,
Totally.
we've had that where I'm like, that was like, I'll leave it like, that was like one of our worst shows. And you'll be like, that's fine. I'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like one of our, or like, when I
Well,
got
it's-
drunk at
it's-
Stamptown, I was like, that was the best one we've ever done.
Oh,
And you're
yeah.
like, I hated that.
Brian got so drunk for this Stamptown
It was
variety
important
show
for me to do this.
in Austin, and I was just like, that you can never do that again.
And I was like, I think I finally had fun for the first time in my life. I think I discovered how to perform. And I left,
And he said, you can never do that again.
I left and I was like, I think it was our best set we've ever done. And Nick was like about to put a pistol in his mouth.
Now, why?
Well, I mean, it's for this, so just so everybody understands, Stamptown is this variety show. That's
our fans. We have 3 clowns on in a row.
Yeah.
And we talked them through it.
It's a very
because of you guys. Part of you guys raved about it so much, and now I've become a big.
the best.
It's my
Best.
favorite show to do and to perform at because it's always different. It's very chaotic. It's a very living organism, and with that, there are certain Stamptown shows that are incredible, transcendent events, and then there are others that are horrific and like really bad, and the audience hates it. Oftentimes,
I want to go to one of those.
It's-
By the way,
yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen 2 now, and I want to see one of those.
According to Zach Zucker,
It's-
they're all that. He hates. He always thinks it's falling apart.
I would say
but-
every 10th one is often like they happen a lot. And what I tell my friends who come is I'm like, it's the sour that makes the sweet taste better. Is that this always has the possibility of going really bad.
Yeah, it's the tightrope that makes it really
Yeah.
fun. We're walking the plank when we do it.
So the role that we often, I mean, sometimes we just do a sketch, but other times, like we've done something where we kind of are the
voice of
lens
reason.
through which the audience might be like, we're the voice of reason. So we'll come out sometimes, and this sort of happened organically because we came out and we tried to start a sketch, and all the fucking clowns in the show kept interrupting us,
And,
and
fucked
we
with
were
us. The
just
sound
like,
effects started fucking with us, and we didn't get to do our
and we're
sketch.
just like screaming at them and insulting them, and the audience like ate that up.
Loved it.
And then sometimes we'll do that, and then we will go into a sketch, and you'll feel the audience be disappointed
Of
because
course.
they're like, "Oh, this was so
Of
fun."
course.
Now
It
they're
was so
going to
fun
do
when they were
something
doing-
scripted.
Our big
Yeah.
thing is we often close the show and we come in and try to do a sketch, and they just fuck with us as hard as they can, and
Yeah.
all the callbacks from the show come in, and all the characters and all the sound effects, and we don't get to do our sketch, and so we have to play like really frustrated, as
Yeah.
real as possible. That's our role. The audience loves it, and they think it's real every time.
Yeah. So for this one show that we're talking about, it was during Moon Tower. We did 5 Stamptown shows while we were there, and for one of them, it was Brian had gotten obliterated.
I wasn't that drunk. I was pretty tipsy, but I was like also just really getting mad at Zach, and I was kind of like wanting to burst out of this role that we kept having to. I was like, I'm kind of done playing this character that we could do,
Yeah.
and he wasn't like listening to us. So I was like, I just have to take matters into my own hands. And so I got drunk, put on eyeliner, and wore a leather jacket, and showed up, which is not how I played this character on stage.
So Brian starts coming out with a like vodka soda and like dancing.
I just, like, start showing
during earlier sketches in the show.
I just start like just, like showing up as this character throughout the show, and
This
like
character.
like.
What do you mean?
And like
There's
just sort
no
of
character,
having
it's
fun with
you.
the audience, making them play the Family Guy theme song and dancing with it, and just having the time of my life. And then they introduce these 2 sketch comedians who come out at the end, and I'm one of them, which is like they've already seen me having fun with the show. So like the idea that I'm like mad at the show makes no sense anymore.
Right.
So I was like, I'm just not going to be mad at the show. I'm going to be going along with it. I just forgot to tell you that I was going to do that.
Well, yeah,
And that was an issue, I guess. Because
yeah, well, it breaks the entire reality of the bit
Yes.
that we're like annoyed that the show is interrupting us
Yeah.
because it's like, well, one of us is now become one of these interruptions.
yeah, I just sort of became one of the clowns.
Yeah.
I like laid on the ground and started like playing with a plan, singing a song, and like dancing
Yeah,
along
yeah,
with the
yeah.
audience. And Nick was not having a great time, but I really was. And so
Right.
that's all that matters.
Because when you're on alcohol,
On alcohol. Are you the mom from Almost
you,
Famous?
you know, enjoy yourself.
Yeah. I think it's amazing to have that you guys have worked together as closely as you have for so long. I mean, it feels so
It's
fucking
insane.
rare.
It's
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the famous duos. First of all, it feels like they kind of went away when comedy clubs stopped. Like, you know, George Carlin was in a duo. I forget what he was, and he eventually left. But Nichols and May,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
Yeah.
And then what's George Costanza's father? Jason Alexander's. not Ben
Jerry-
Stiller's father.
Jerry Stiller.
Jerry Stiller and his wife, right?
Yeah.
And,
sketch groups and improv groups are normally have a pretty short lifespan.
Yeah.
Like we started at UCB in
Yeah.
2008, and all of the big sketch groups there and improv groups that we looked up to, none of them are together anymore.
Yeah.
They've
Well,
all,
they're-
or that maybe they kind of are.
Especially in comedy, they are often used as a vehicle to like just launch the career. Like very few times are people thinking we're going to do this for forever. It's like they're oftentimes like, you know, we were talking about this the other night because it's like bands too. We just saw Stereophonic, or I just saw Stereophonic, and it's like, you know, it's the group dynamics and all this stuff, and there is this inherent fear in, I think, a duo, in a group of any sort, of like, who's going to go solo? When's Harry Styles going to just break out and do their album? And so there's this weird baked in almost expiration date. And I think with us, it's the reason that we've gone on as long as we have is because, I mean, it's like a romantic relationship. It's like a sibling relationship and a romantic relationship. And you have to kind of like do that level of work on it. And I think,
have you ever had any couples counseling or?
Not with a therapist or anything, but like,
do you ever have like a moment of like, I don't know if this is working, or revisiting?
Well, we
like
used to have once a year we'd
have
take
State of the Union.
We'd take Molly into a State of the Union address. That was like in our mid-20s. Yeah, because then it's like, I love you. I'm sorry when this happened.
And then it became like every month we did Molly. And
I don't know if you guys remember the early 2010s in New York. It was like, we're all doing too much Molly. What's happening here?
Before the Silk Road shut down.
Yeah.
You can trace it because then the Molly all became meth. And it was like, we were like, we gotta stop this. This has become a different
we're not
drug.
having lovey conversations anymore. We're fighting each other.
But so,
what if we fuck a dog together? Like, the State of the Union has gone off the rails.
I think like the key, like the thing that has been really that's helped us. I think it's like there's a bunch of different reasons. One is like there hasn't been too much pressure. Like one, we've never said out loud, this isn't working. This needs to end, or anything like that, or really had any like huge big blow up fights, but we've kind of given each other space to go do separate things. Like we don't put a lot of, like, I think early on there was, at least on my part, there was like fear of like, is Brian gonna, like, our new live show is very much about this sort of inherent nature and relationship of a duo and the fear of one of them leaving.
Sure.
And like it's you know, there was a lot of that early on. Then it was like, you know, we kind of did some separate stuff, you know, explored different things, but we're always still doing it kind of casually. And for me, at least, it's like going and writing something separately or doing something separately. I always was just like, it's not as good as what the like, you know, when whatever, it's the magic of when we work together, we do, I think, really elevate. We create something that's impossible because we fight viciously about the creative.
Sure.
Yeah, I think in terms of comedy specifically, it's just like, because there's been times where one of us has almost gotten like the lead on a show or something that always scared us, but we never really wanted those. Like the money sounded great, but like in terms of like actual comedy that we want to do that makes us laugh, we've never liked anything more than what we create together. So it's like there's been no other partner or no other project that has been more attractive than what we do when we create a sketch or show.
Sometimes I remember just how most TV, most films suck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tove and I, we had the night off and we decided to watch the Hitman movie.
Oh yeah. I haven't seen
and
it yet.
I'm like watching it for 10 minutes. I'm like, I think this sucks. I think this sucks. I think this is like a shitty Netflix movie where everyone got a big fat paycheck and no one put their heart into it. And I don't buy this guy as a nerdy philosophy teacher. He's a gorgeous model. I can't.
Yeah.
And by the end, I mean, we were totally gone. And it was just such a reminder of like most things
Do
outside
suck.
of your own
Things
creation.
are bad.
You join and you go, this blows.
Right.
Yeah.
You think you're going to make great comedy, and then suddenly Hillary Clinton is playing Hallelujah, and you go, what did I sign up for?
The other thing that I think is interesting just about like the duo nature and the fighting and creating stuff is like we're working with a director for the first time ever.
Sure. Yeah.
For our live show. And what we said to her, and it's immediately a fantastic fit. And I think because we kind of, you know, now we're like 15 years in, we kind of know our working relationship. And something we said up top is like, and she's very much from the theater world. Her name's Ashley Rodbro, and she's
a musical theater director on Broadway.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted. We kind of were like, we don't really want a comedian. We're like, we know like we can handle that. What we need to help with is like literally like, where do I stand on stage?
Yeah.
And what we said to her early on was like, look, this, you know, this ultimately you are kind of, you have input, but this is very much not your show. Like you can't be a tiebreaker. Like if there's an idea that we're fighting about, you basically need to let us go to war about this idea. Because what always happens is it's like, I want option A, Brian wants option B. We both fight for those things. And then eventually we the other one doesn't give up and we have to come up with option C. And that is always better than those first two.
Yeah, when people ask, because people have asked us, like, how do you find a duo? Or I'm trying to start a group or a duo with my person from my improv group or this person. And I'm like, you have to be willing to fight viciously with this person all the time. And you have to be real. Like, we're both incredibly stubborn with our ideas, which I think is important. Or else, like, I know some duos where one person is like, I do everything. They just let me kind of do it. Like, if the balance isn't right in stubbornness, then one person will just take over all the work.
Of course. What about being honest with each other when something's bad?
Yeah,
well, that's easy. Another. It's
I think
important
that's
to
the
do
hardest
that.
thing of all art.
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
hardest
hardest
art.
thing.
This thing is like, I think I have other friends, like when they send me their screenplay, I'm like, I'm not going to give you real feedback here. I'm going to go, good, great. Like, I feel that way with almost
Then
everyone.
aren't you doing a disservice?
Yes, I am.
Are you
But it's so
truly
hard.
setting
But
them
it's
up
so
for failure in
different
life?
if you're in a
But-
partnership. It's so different
with-
than a friend that you're not in a partnership with.
Yes, it's hard.
You know?
You're right. It's the most important thing. But we can do that easily. There's no.
And you need to be able to hear it too. You need to be able to hear that's not funny. And I think the first few sketches we wrote, we didn't, like I wrote one, Brian wrote the other. We kind of like punched them up a little bit, but we didn't it was like around our fourth, fifth sketches where the fights really started. And at first it was really, it is like you hear, I don't like this. And you're like, I'm bad. You think I'm bad. I don't have inherent value because of that. And then over time you kind of go, okay, this is a person who has signed up to do this, to live this creative partnership with me.
Yeah.
Like, they like me, they trust me, they respect me. They just don't like this joke. And so when you have internalized that, you can go, cool, it's just a joke. Yeah, all right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Or you be like, you don't get it. Let me convince you of it.
Yeah,
or
it doesn't
whatever.
really affect me at all anymore when you say no, because I just assume you're always going to say no. When you say yes to something, I know you really like it. There's no time where you say yes where you just acquiesce. I'm like, oh, Nick really likes that joke. If I say if he says yes to my...
there's certain things I've noticed where it's like, there's like traps that you can fall in that I think we've gotten good at avoiding, even though we'll sometimes still fall in them, where it's like, I'll pitch something. I'll be like, I mean, this won't work, but here's this idea. And Brian will be like, yeah, that won't work because of the logic. And I'm like, well, no, logically it's fine, but it won't work. It doesn't work. And I don't think it's right. And he's like, well, yeah, because logically it doesn't work. And I'm like, no, it's not wrong for the reasons you're saying it's wrong.
Yeah.
And then it's like, that's a 30-minute fight.
Here's the best version of
yeah.
that we've ever had. We were talking about something, and Nick was pitching something, and I was like, I don't think it works. And he was like, yes, it does. And I was like, I don't think so. And then the metaphor I just used off the cuff was like, I feel like this is like a Jackson Pollock painting right now. It's like a mess.
Oh, yeah.
And Nick was like, Jackson Pollock is one of the finest painters of the 20th
Jackson
century.
Pollock, oh, you mean one of the most celebrated, successful painters of all time? So then it's
literally,
fine.
I'm like, I think people say that, but I think people don't actually like him. I think he's like, and Nick is like, no, he's not. He's actually brilliant. And we're now arguing over whether or not Jackson Pollock's a good artist.
Right.
And neither of us have any opinion on Jackson Pollock whatsoever. But we have to use the knowledge of what argument we can use for him to use for the argument of our piece.
Another thing that'll happen, this happens way more than you'd think, is I'll pitch like this idea, like, what if the character's wearing this silly hat? And Brian's like, no, that's not good. And I'll be like, I think it could work because of whatever. And Brian's like, oh, actually it could work because of that. Yeah, he could wear a silly hat. And I'm like, actually, I know, I think it's too silly. And then I'm fighting against an idea I gave
Initially
Brian.
pitched.
Yeah.
Well, it's a miracle you get anything done. But
It really is.
Well, we're pretty slow.
Famously, we have about 20 sketches online after 15 years. So.
well, do you ever get, because part of me, I was like, well, you're coming on as a duo. You do a lot of podcasts as a duo. And do you ever, like, I have individual things. I saw you do stand-up once, way back when I was early on in stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to hear about, we've never had anyone talk about their experience with accutane and acne. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could tell you lots about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were younger,
Yeah.
when did you start having trouble with acne?
I mean, it's interesting because I didn't notice it for a long time on myself. Like this definitely had some sort of psychological effect on me because apparently my nose had a ton of blackheads.
Oh.
I've never in my life, I've never really understood blackheads. I've never noticed them on myself. I don't see them in other people. I'm sort of like, but my mom would be like, my God, your nose is full of blackheads, and have me lie underneath like a light on bed, and she would like pick them out of my nose, and it was so painful, and I hated it, and I was like, I don't like stop. I don't notice this. And she had really bad acne as a child, and so she was, I think, very sensitive about it, and so she was constantly talking about my acne.
Great.
And buying me all sorts of special creams.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, I don't care. I don't notice this. That's fine. And then one day in high school, I think I was like 15, freshman year, I was like, oh, this is not ideal. I see a lot of pimples on my face. And
Pimples now as well.
What?
Blackhead and pimples.
Yes.
Okay.
The pimples are what I started to notice. I still
Sure.
don't notice blackheads at all.
Yeah.
But like I noticed a bunch of pimples, and and then I got really obsessed with it, and it was like really bad. I had like cystic acne on my face and on my back. It was like
God.
I was scared to take my shirt off because it was so bad on my back. There are still crazy scars on my shoulders. Like it looks like I've been tortured.
Yeah.
And then I went on Accutane. I've like tried literally everything.
And
Tried
what is
hypnosis.
Accutane hypnosis?
Yeah,
What they
everything.
thought
I tried acupuncture, hypnosis, positive thinking.
Did you use that? Remember they had Clearasil, and it was like you try to find your skin color, and you try to like cover it up, but it was not
makeup.
It would not.
Oh
fool
yeah.
anyone. Do you know what I mean? Like,
became excellent.
Yeah, Nick knows all
at
of it.
doing makeup because I would, and it wouldn't really work. I also there was so much trial and error. I remember like, God, there's just so much with my skin. I would try. Someone told me at this camp, I feel like this was a fucking prank. An older woman told me, because I went to this acting camp, and she was like, your skin is going to be a problem for agents. And I was like, great, love to hear it.
Who said that?
And she was like, you know what? Well, now I regret saying her name. Maybe bleep her name.
Great.
I think she's pretty
Mark that?
litigious.
We can mark that somewhere. She's pretty litigious because she's
I don't
abused so
think
many
this-
kids
yeah,
over the years.
probably. Yeah.
She's had to be.
Well,
She had to
get
learn.
ready for this. What she said was, she was like, you know what you could try?
Uh-oh.
And she's like, you could try, I've heard this works, urine. And she's like, what you do is you're going to pee into a bowl in the early morning important, and then you rub it all over your face, and then you have to leave it on all day.
all day. Nick, you smell like piss.
And I
know, but I'm beautiful,
yes.
right?
And I did that exactly one day. It did nothing, and I was like, this was a prank.
I think that's so
She
people
just got
stay
me.
so far away from you they don't see the
Yeah,
act.
that's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like
Functionally
piss
cured.
boy
You
for a day.
peed in a bowl? Where'd you get the bowl? You're at camp.
What do you mean
take
a
it from
bowl?
the cafeteria?
No, this wasn't
There's
a
no
camp.
bowls at camp, famously.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like you go.
No, I had roommates at camp. I did not do it at camp. I did it at school. That
this
fall.
happened later, right?
Yeah, because I was like, I
took-
didn't
you took the
immediately leap
advice and
to
were
it.
like, I'll
I just
remember
was
that.
like,
Yeah.
Did you Google it?
I've
Just in
tried
case?
everything else.
No Google at the time. Well,
no.
I guess there was, but
There was, but I
Wasn't
wasn't
as good.
asking it questions.
Yeah.
I was looking at nothing but porn, and that was that.
Oh man, how many kids did she give that advice to? Do you
I don't
think?
know.
Wow.
That's
wow,
her. Yeah.
piss on your face.
So that didn't work.
Smelliest acting class of all time.
And then I took Accutane, which is Accutane is a pill you take every day. It's very large. It comes in packaging that has a pregnant woman with a big X through it because it is like they're like, you cannot get pregnant on it. Like they don't just have like, oh, you're a woman, here's the box that has it's like every single pill has like no pregnancy because it horribly mutates the child. There's photos that they show you. You also have to get your blood tested once a month to make sure your liver's not failing. And they're like, one of the side effects is suicidal depression.
But I remember you saying that didn't bother you because
Yeah.
what definitely gave
Yeah.
you suicidal
I was
depression
like,
was
oh, this might give me suicidal depression. You know what certainly gives me suicidal depression is the fact that I look like fucking Indiana Jones at the end of the I look like I looked at the Ark of the Covenant
Yeah.
or whatever.
your face is falling off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Did it work?
yeah, it did.
Yeah, it seems
Accutane's
like
the
it was
only thing that's worked.
really effective
And
quickly.
you just do it for a segment of time.
And the idea is you only have to do it once in your life. I've done it 4 times in my life.
God.
Yes.
What was the most recent?
It's been a while, thank God. It was I don't know. It would have been probably my late 20s, I think. Was
Yeah.
the last time I did it.
Wow.
Did you have any suicidal thoughts as you did it?
You know, there was only one point, like the final time that I took it. It was never like suicidal thoughts, but I was like, I'm really depressed and I don't know why. And I was like talking to friends about it, and then someone was like, "Were you on any medication that like might be causing it?" And I was like, "No, just the accutane." That's oh my god, just like the most like disruptive to your system pill that can exist.
Yeah.
That's fucking brutal, dude.
Yeah, and then yeah, it was terrible. But I do recommend Accutane. If it took 10 years off my life, I'm like, yeah, worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, there's nothing worse when you're
yeah.
middle school
Yeah.
with the pimples
Yeah.
and the back pimples.
Oh.
Oh my God, I had them all on my shoulders too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You did?
Yeah.
acne.
Oh yeah.
And they just
Oh,
went
yeah.
away eventually?
Yeah.
It was also a time when like your guy friends are being really like people kept like coming and doing
People
that
would
pressure
grab you
point
all
thing.
the time. Oh yeah. Why do kids love
Yeah, they
that
love
pressure
that
point thing?
Oh my
And it
god,
was
the
like
pressure point.
on-
Pressure point, yeah.
Like
Or your hands-
pus-filled wound
Yeah.
that they're
Oh.
doing it to. It was horrible.
I have it's a horrible memory to share, but my father had back knee later in life, and I remember his half sister, for whatever reason, their relationship allowed her to pop the pimples on his back.
Okay.
Whatever, it's
No.
Italian. And I just remember one time she popped a pimple, and it was like a noodle came out.
No,
No,
I
don't
remember.
say
Like,
noodle.
I
Oh
remember.
god,
Noodle.
That's so. I
like
can
like a
see
like,
it.
like
I
a
was-
packet of
I was-
ramen.
And so you're watching.
I was there for some. I was horrified.
The whole family's there for this.
I
Wait,
was
so
on.
she was doing this in front of
He would
guests?
He would like.
Company.
she like worked for him kind of like as like a secretary, and
Are you-
as my dad's secretary, as I want to do.
Living
they-
room? Where are we here?
living room, like she could have been around the house. She
Right.
made herself at home.
You're
And
just-
the office is in the
Yeah, yeah.
basement. He works from home. He has his own company from home, and he was lying down on the nice rug.
Oh
and
God.
just
On
takes,
the
takes
floor.
off his
The
takes off his
noodle.
wife beater and just. And then this one, she was like, "Whoa!" and pulled this thing out.
Oh, it's so
Stop.
so bad. Noodle. That oh
The
god, the word
noodle.
noodle.
But
is
Tova
That's
likes
so
Tova likes
deeply.
popping pimples. She
Yeah.
loves it. She has that
Yeah.
OCD whatever thing.
Oh, yeah.
I like
she
it-
watches the videos and
Oh,
I.
yeah.
I can't.
I like it with mine. Like if I'm in a mirror bathroom alone,
Yeah.
I can watch mine and it's very satisfying. But
Sure.
anyone else's, I don't want to see it.
every girlfriend I've had has enjoyed popping like blackheads and or ingrown hairs.
Is it because they remind you of your mom?
That's why
I
you date
don't
them.
enjoy
They've
it.
enjoyed it.
But that,
They
you
enjoy
also
it.
didn't enjoy it when your
But I
mom did
am-
it. So
but it is
maybe
an argument that I'm dating my
you're
mother.
chasing
Yeah.
people
Sure. Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
hate popping your blackheads.
Yeah.
And for your segment,
Yeah, talk to me.
Yeah.
we haven't had. How many duos have we had? We
Um,
had Girl God, but you weren't here, and Grace was kind of the co-host for that.
Yeah.
Um,
We had one other. We had someone else.
Yeah.
I can't remember now.
you went to a Montessori school.
You've done your research.
I have, and I always think if I have a kid, which this world, other than my natural hesitations of having a kid, now I have this extra thing of like this world. We're gonna bring in more.
Yeah.
I think I'm riding it hopefully to the end.
You're right.
But if I have a kid,
Yeah.
I'm always like, I think about school and I go
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I could never send my kid to traditional school.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Montessori seems good, knowing very little about
Sure.
it in heart. Did it prepare you for life?
Okay, so that's a great question. I loved school. I loved it. I don't know if it prepared me that well, but I had a great time.
Sure. But I don't know if my school prepared me very well,
with
and I
you.
had a bad time.
There you go.
Everything
So-
I've heard
Yeah.
about it makes me agree with you that I'm like, yeah, Montessori seems like it. I'll tell you one thing, a tangible thing that it has made Brian very good at is quick math.
Oh yeah, I loved math. Well, so I went when I was 6, first grade through 8th grade. Our school did like a experimental middle school, which there weren't a lot of middle school Montessori schools. So that one was kind of like, maybe I should have been doing more high schooly. When I went to high school, I'd like never had homework, never called a teacher by their first name or by their last name.
Yeah.
Like everything was like very much a shock to my system. But 1st through 6th grade, every day was like, go explore, child. There's like so many different, like, it's a very visual school. So it's like, you want to learn math? Here's an abacus. Here are these like beads that tell you the multiplication tables. Here's these racks and tubes. And like,
What is it? Just a room and they go count?
yeah, kind of go count some things. Or it's like you have like a group project you're doing and you work on the floor on mats and like I mean, I can't really remember how they scheduled the day. It felt kind of free flowing, but you were encouraged to go figure out what you like to do and really do it. And so if you were there were definitely some kids that were like, I don't have to do anything. Fucking awesome. I won't. They often got asked to leave. But if you were like a curious kid and you wanted to do stuff, and I just loved math, I guess, I was just like constantly doing it and trying to excel to like the next grade level. And I was sort of allowed to kind of like move at whatever speed I
So
wanted.
were there books as well, aside from the loose abacus?
Yeah, there's
Just a pair of dice in
Yes,
the middle of the room.
yeah, we bet like sailors all day. Isn't that what school is? Just for loose cigarettes. Yeah, I mean, they're textbooks, they're reading books. We had silent reading time every day for an hour. You would have loved that.
Yeah.
Nick loves reading.
Yeah.
And then I can't really. There's geography. I mean, there's everything, but like it just didn't. You didn't sit at desks, and they didn't seem to have like formalized times for like classes.
And the teachers roaming and just
Yeah,
like
they kind of just roam and sort of chat and check in, and a lot of nature stuff. We'd go on these like nature trips and learn how to camp and like make our own like fires and like get tea from this birch wood root and all this stuff.
It seems like a system that would be very easily corrupted by like the wrong kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Like
so.
the wrong kid
Wrong
could
kid,
come in
wrong
there and just
teacher.
run the place.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
But skills like making a fire, these things,
Yeah,
I
those-
wish. I just think of all the classes that I have no memory. I took Latin.
Right.
I don't remember a lick of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Math up to a certain point, don't remember a lick of calculus.
Yeah, yeah. I
Don't
don't-
remember trigonometry.
I didn't really learn any history. I don't know anything. I'm reading.
Yeah, but I learned a fake version of history.
There you go.
I
So-
learned a version
so-
where this thing worked and
Yeah.
democracy.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was like a very kind and gentle school. I loved going to school. I felt very nurtured. I lived in a bubble. And so I think in that way, it doesn't prepare you for life so much. Cause like we talk about this a lot where Nick is always like, isn't it so great that childhood is over and we're adults now? And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Wait, when do you say that?
No, he's reversing it. What happens more often is Brian goes, "Don't you wish you could just be a kid again?"
yeah.
And I go, "No, I don't."
Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
I guess I instigate
Good
it.
goddamn riddance to that time in my life.
I have such fond memories of being a child that like, which sounds good, but I'm just now chasing it as an adult. And I'm
What do
like,
you hear? You're like, don't you miss having pimples on your back all day?
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
no, that was the worst.
I was bullied for most of it, and then like
Yeah.
in high school things started getting better for me. But like everything before high school, I just remember being scared and attacked
I remember
so much.
when
And I had like my parents were great. They did a good
Why were
job.
you bullied? Just because of the acne, or
No,
or
I
were you
had
weak?
big old glasses, and
Oh.
I was weak, and I was like very. My therapist had me read this book like a year ago.
Nick loves this book.
She's like, we'd been working together for like years, and she'd never like diagnosed me with anything. And she was like, I want you to read this book and see if you connect with this. And it's called The Highly Sensitive Child. And she's like, don't read. There's one for adults. She's like, you've come up with so many coping mechanisms. I don't think you'd connect with the adult version. But she's like, I think you're a highly sensitive child. And I read the book and I went, I've been dragged for filth by this book. It's a perfect, like, I was like, I connect with this so much. And I had my mom read it and I was like, do you think this is me? And my mom was like, yeah.
Wait,
This
I want
is
to read
garbage.
it now. It seems a little passive aggressive after years of therapy to say,
Yeah.
"Hey, can you read this book? The open wound piece of shit."
It was so great
Open wound
because I
piece
was
of
like,
shit.
oh my God, this makes so much sense about my life.
I
Like,
always,
what did it say that you
So
were like, "Wow"?
the idea of this is, and like, this could be a pseudoscience. I don't know, really. I haven't done
Sure.
any research to really know what the scientific community thinks of this. But the book presents it as this is a temperament. This is a temperament that 25% of people have. So like I've told oftentimes, so when I read the book, anytime I'm reading a book, I become insufferable because all I'm doing is talking about that book to people.
Yeah.
And I was telling like a group of 10 people about this book and describing it. And it was funny because like 8 of them were like, what? And then 2 people were like, this is me.
And you're like 25%
And I was
bingo
like,
right there.
statistically, this is correct.
it's also so weird when you bring it up because everyone's like highly sensitive child. Like
Yeah.
you don't project as that at all.
Well, because I've come up with so many coping mechanisms.
This is what happens a lot. People put a mask on that's the opposite of who they actually are because you go the opposite direction. And then people are so confused by it's weird because
Yeah.
it's like you don't get the need that you need from people because you are actually showing them the
Yes.
fake version of
Yeah.
you. So you don't get what you actually need in response often.
So like oftentimes also like I have a number of friends who are like you've been touched by the autism brush or whatever. And
Nick is very poetic friends.
We as a generation, because I do it too.
We all
we
do.
got to figure out what we're doing with the word autism.
I agree.
Because it has come to
gotta-
mean
we don't
we gotta
know.
have some new words. It feels like
Everyone-
we lost Asperger's, and now it's just autism.
Or the
Autism.
spectrum.
We're
They're just
all-
like
Spectrum.
everyone's on the spectrum.
Everyone's on the spectrum.
Everyone
And
who
everyone is on the
annoyed
spectrum,
you
so.
slightly
Yeah.
or was lightly
Yes.
rude to you is
Yeah.
on the spectrum. So, but anyhow, it's a running joke of people like it's not uncommon for people to be like, you're on the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm like, you're too comfortable with me to be saying that. But so this is oftentimes misdiagnosed as autism. And one of the reasons is it's like eye contact. You don't like eye contact. And I hate eye contact. I'm doing it now because I'm thinking of it.
yeah.
But I don't like it, but not for the same reasons that autistic people don't like it. Autistic people like have no use for it, I think, to some extent, because they're like, I'm not reading facial expressions or I don't know what these mean.
Yeah.
Whereas for the highly sensitive people, it's too much information. You're like and I'm like very, because I was like, I don't think I'm autistic because I am so hyper aware of everyone's little like expression in something. And I'm like, oh, does that mean they don't like me? Or, oh, they're getting bored or something like that.
Yeah.
So like, that's the one part of it. There's also like, it's it manifests as shyness a lot. Like you don't take up a lot of space. You like kind of hang back and need to like get the feel of things, and then you can participate more.
Sure.
And then you can kind of thrive in that environment once you understand
I'm
it.
checking off on my boxes
Yeah.
as we go along.
Another way it manifests in children a lot is literally high sensitivity to physical stimulus. Sometimes it manifests as like you're sensitive to light. For me, a big thing was like the seams on socks. I would scream as a child if I felt like the sock seam on my toes. Like my mom bought all different types of socks trying to like find a pair that I would wear. But then you get like some people, I got over that. I don't have that or as
Every
much
day Nick
anymore.
starts screaming.
Yeah.
Like someone's got to get new socks for me.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on?
And yeah, I don't know. There's like a bunch of other things that I'm not remembering right now, but it was like crazy to read this book.
What have you changed about your life since
Nothing.
reading this?
I haven't. I just understand.
He
it
talks
more.
about it a lot.
Yeah.
Well, it's one thing. Oh, and then another thing is you're really sensitive to like tones. So it's like the way you discipline a child who's highly sensitive. They're like it's really important not to yell at that kid. Like some kids, it's like to cut through the noise, you need to like give them a shock to their system and be like, hey, that's not okay. Doing that to a highly sensitive child is kind of traumatizing because they're like they really feel attacked, and they're like these kids are able to understand consequences, so you can just explain to them like, here's why you don't do that. It's and that was like a huge thing for me as a kid. Is I was like people, I would often feel yelled at by adults, when it wasn't necessarily
see.
that. And so it's like really a problem when you have a highly sensitive child and the parent is not highly sensitive. My mom was like, I'm also this. And she was like, and I think your father is too. And my mom was really patient with me and didn't like force me to like eat foods I didn't like. That's another thing. She didn't really yell. And like her father like did the opposite with her. Like she was oftentimes forced to eat food she didn't like. And there was like, it was strict and there was no allowance made for this. And
Sure.
so it's, and then it's also like, and then in relationships, like one of my ex-girlfriends, I was just constantly like, you're being so mean to me. And she was like from a family where it's just constant yelling.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, this is just
Totally.
how we talk. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's a really bad fit for me.
Yeah.
My therapist did the same thing. We're 3 years in. She's like, I have a book for you. It was called, she's like, you're going to laugh at the title. It's pretty cheesy, but it's
Harry
pretty good.
Potter and the Sorcerer's
And
Stone.
it's so good. Because I am that boy. No, it was called No More Mr. Nice Guy. It was written in the 80s. And I was like, okay. And she was like, just get past the title and read it.
Yeah.
And she's like, and it was one of those things where I was like, I read that book and I was like, oh my God, I feel so like seen in like kind of a bad way. But it's about people who are like too nice. And it's like nice people have built this thing that like they're nice, which means they're a good person. You're actually a bad person. And here's what nice people do. Because they don't get their needs met, because you just agree to everyone, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. And like you want people to like you. You sit on, every time you want to say something in response, you kind of sit on it, or you like you don't get your needs met because you let other people do it. Yeah. You actually like keep that down, and you find passive aggressive ways to actually be mean, and you don't even know you're doing it.
Yeah.
And there's this list of like, here's what nice people actually do, and there's this list of things where I was like, oh my God, I do all of these things unconsciously, and I had no idea. And it was like, there's another friend of ours who's very similar to me in this way. And it's like, these are all his like negative flaws too. And I was
Are you
like,
gonna get it for him?
I've given it to him many times. And he like,
Many times. Every birthday.
I'm
I was like,
picturing the bookstore clerk.
was
It's
like-
like, you're buying this book again?
I was like, take this. Trust me, you need it.
The only book my therapist ever got me was a book called How to Live with OCD. But the problem is, if I read any of the odd pages, my mom will die.
I love it. I love it. What a great joke.
Yeah, it's a
Where?
joke.
Go to therapy.
What?
There's a way we're different. You have no interest in therapy.
You never been.
I've never been.
Yeah.
No, I'll go at some point. I just
Now you hear that shit. No, you won't.
So wait, what is, do you
Some
feel
point.
like, is life just moving, grooving for you? Like, is everything's pretty good?
No, I mean sometimes yeah. Sometimes a lot of times yes.
He knows how to have a good time.
I know how to have a good time. I know how to
to.
relax. But I do struggle with periods of things. Obviously, everyone anxiety or depression things, but not in a way that ever feels like it's meaningful or lasting.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like I'm pretty good.
What would your
Yeah.
book be called, though? What do you think the book
I don't
would really
know.
nail you on the
I
head?
mean, I relate. I think that I probably would get that book.
Yeah,
The nice thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I feel like I've gotten better about it, but my avoidance to conflict is so extreme that I would rather just never see a person again than have to have any sort of.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of the worst version of this because I don't think I think I'm repressing the conflict and the anger and expressing myself, but I'm not being nice alongside that. I'm being kind
Yeah.
of neutral and existing, and then also being passive aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, if it's a thing worth fighting for, like if it's something that I'm like, oh, then I do. But there's times where I'm like, I'd rather just not know you anymore with certain
Yeah, yeah.
things than have a fight about it. Something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
A
I lo-
mental
I-
breakdown will blindside you one day. Don't worry.
Yeah,
It'll happen.
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
You'll know.
I think I was so skeptical about therapy when I was younger because my dad was in therapy, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, well, this clearly doesn't work.
The
Yeah.
noodle guy? No.
Well, you got to get all those noodles out of him first, and then
And I just, you can have bad therapy. I had a bad therapist when I was a kid.
yeah.
Well, tons of people have bad therapy. You have conversations with friends sometimes, and they'll tell you what their therapist is saying. And you're like,
your
Yeah, because
therapist
anyone can be a
fucking
therapist.
nightmare,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a low bar.
Because
Do you
then
ever
they start diagnosing everyone in their life. I know some.
yeah.
But I think we've also reached the point. I feel like we've reached certainly a oversaturation of therapy with BetterHelp and all these
Yeah.
things. Where now I do see how people go, well, this is bullshit. You're just using this to like be a child
and it's,
or
we've
not.
also
Agree.
reached a
be a main
critical
character.
mass of like people using therapy speak to justify everything. Like just
Yeah.
like we were talking about, everyone's on the spectrum.
Someone said on
You
Twitter
know.
today, they said autistic people often find themselves cheating because they can't recognize the cue that starts a relationship.
It's like, well, it taken to its extreme, it's like, well, then we're just back to normal of nothing's an excuse for
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And like,
Here's
you
what I
know.
think about both my parents are psychologists, by the way, which is also crazy. But
Sure.
like, I think there's sort of two big steps of therapy. One is the first step is when you go, you start recognizing and seeing things that you've been doing, patterns. Maybe you're diagnosed with something and you see it. It's the first step is seeing it. The next step is doing a lot of work to move away from that. And I think a lot of people do that first step where they go, oh, I'm codependent. Hey, I'm codependent. And like you tell everyone all the time. You're like,
Yes,
that's why I
they-
do
they-
these
they
things.
do tell
And you feel
everyone.
so good that you're able to label what you do and you have a reason for it. It's because my dad did this.
Yeah.
And that feels like healing, but
Yeah.
then you don't do anything else. You
Yeah,
just
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
say you're
Done.
codependent the rest
and then
of
you
your
just
life.
use it. You're like,
Yeah,
no,
it's
because
like,
I did that because
I'm
I'm codependent.
codependent.
Yeah,
And it's
Yeah,
like-
it's just like going like my room is messy.
Yeah.
It's messy.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
clean it.
I do couples counseling, and I look back on one long relationship I had previously, and I'm like, oh yeah, couples counseling would have done a lot. Couples counseling, I think, would be great.
Yeah.
I've always wondered, and I know it wouldn't work with friends. Couples counseling, you go to couples counseling because it's like, well, we're doing everything together, so we got to talk about this. But I always wonder what couples counseling would look like with a really good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People
there's
have
some,
done
Russell
it.
said because I said, well, let's do an annual couples counseling,
Yeah.
but it felt like that would just be like my therapist and I. We started doing once.
I said
every,
I wasn't going to use his therapist because I'm
Yeah.
you know we can't, we have to do
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
new.
yeah.
you know what I'd
my
say
therapist
is,
already knows what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
I don't
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I don't. I would say either you either got to do it whole hog or don't
Yeah.
do it at all. It's
Yeah.
like don't scratch the surface
That's true.
of it. I mean, like I don't know that that's actually good advice, but I'm like that's
No, because then, well, my therapist says the worry about I'm seeing her once every 2 weeks now is that it just becomes an information dump.
yeah.
This is what happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there's also like with my therapist, I really got to a point where I was like, we can't talk about anything business related, partially because everything that happens in this business, it is emotionally shitty and traumatizing, but that could take up the whole
Yeah.
thing. It just sucks.
Yeah.
We have to deal with how I respond,
Yeah, yeah.
not the facts of the. Is that picture real from Instagram?
Yeah.
That I think where
Yeah.
your wife was on
just
set,
talked about
Yeah.
and came to couples counseling in full makeup.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
the funniest fucking picture
Yeah.
I've ever seen in my life. It's a Zoom couples counseling.
Uh-huh.
But his wife was in what movie?
She was in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies,
Oh.
and she plays an alien, and much like me,
Very
Yeah.
similar look.
it's a very
to the-
similar story. In fact, of she, you know, her character is she's in full blue prosthetics. It takes 4 hours for
Yeah.
her to get into this, and we were in couples counseling, and we had been, you know. We'd had like a number of sessions, but she had to keep missing them or canceling them last minute. And then it would just be, and I would go to the session alone, and I have my own therapist, and she doesn't have a therapist. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, I like my therapist more. Like, I don't need to like have this other person giving me a whole separate therapy session.
Yeah.
And so I was getting annoyed at her canceling. I was like, this, like, can we do this? Like, I don't want to keep doing this if you're not going to do it. And so she was like, and she had forgotten that she had scheduled this on a day she was shooting. So I'm in the session. She's 15 minutes late. I'm like talking to the therapist, you know, about whatever. And then it's like, well, and she pops in and she's in full blue makeup. And I was like, okay, I can't. Come on. And then we tried to do couples therapy for like 15 more minutes. And the therapist said like, well, why don't you look at Karen and say to her what you're and I was like, I
Remind her
cannot
that
right
she's
now.
beautiful. She's an alien.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Let's go to our next segment. This has got to stop.
This has gotta stop.
This has got to stop. This is where we talk about something that needs to go away. Big, small, personal, broad, whatever you like. Russell, do you have a this got to
let me pull
stop?
up. You go first. Let me pull up my list.
Okay. Okay, I'll do my this has got to stop.
Oh, this is gotta
Uh,
stop.
sometime-
Emails from John fucking Fetterman coming through right now. I so
Those
many
gotta
emails
stop, man.
from
Yeah.
all these
What's
Democrats.
he say? What's he telling you?
John
Fetterman?
It's called. I mean, I was just it's just all these things. It said scary stuff was the subject line. Now it's not loading.
Ghosts.
Scary stuff. Sorry, it's
It's
not
emailing
loading
ghosts.
now.
Mummies.
Go for it. I'll load this.
Might just gotta stop. I think sometimes with stand up, people like people after the show, they want to neg me. They think like we have a negging relationship.
Yeah.
And one that
yeah.
really bugged me recently was someone wanted a picture after show, and as their friend was taking the picture, they said, "Oh, you're so funny, but Josh Johnson is still my favorite." And I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And
And trying to be funny? What's going on?
And Mr. Nice Guy and me, I don't do anything. And I know one day, I'm gonna snap. I know one day, and it's gonna be while a fan is filming or taking a picture, and I'm gonna snap, and it's gonna be I do worry, not that I'm gonna be so successful at all come crashing, but like I'm a public yeller.
Yeah.
Usually not at people. That's like the one thing I changed from my father is I
Right.
make it like, at the sky,
right.
at the
on stage into a microphone.
on stage into a microphone, at the printer, at the table, like something inanimate, but it's loud and it's cursy. And that's gonna happen one day. It'll be like someone will do that to me. I'll go, Josh is great,
Yeah.
and then I'll like stub my toe and go fucking, and I'll just lose it.
Yeah.
You'll shout
It'll
at
just-
the 500 people who've done it up to that person. But yeah.
Yeah.
So enough.
I had someone after a show, or like something that people were saying for a period of time, was like, how do you think that went? To me.
Oh, God.
I was like,
Oh.
No.
you can just not talk to me.
I hate that. How do you think that went? I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I now know how you think that went. So
They go, sorry that audience was so
Right.
tough, and I'm like, well,
I thought it was a good show.
It's seriously scary stuff by John Fetterman,
shit.
and seriously has two asterisks on either side of it. But I've continued to get
Jeff Fetterman's the guy.
the sweatpants douchebag.
You used to do a good impression of him, like right after the stroke.
Yeah. I keep getting these emails from this guy. Stop. I keep getting Biden emails every day now with his picture, and he does not use the right name. He's not calling me. It was right at one point. It was Hey Russell. The other day I got Hey D. It's Joe.
Do you think they wanted the text to reflect his mental
Hey
deterioration?
D. Hey D. It's Joe. Hope I didn't catch you too early. It came at 2 p.m. That text came through at 2 p.m. Hope I didn't catch you too early. I don't know what's happened. I never used to get this many texts. I get 3
yeah.
texts a day
Me
now.
too.
I didn't sign up for anything more.
I got one that just said it was from the Biden, and it said, "Not mad, Brian, just disappointed." And I was like, "What? I don't even know what this is." But
like,
I
quit
hate you.
triggering me
I
with
hate
these
you now.
subject
I don't want.
lines.
I'm not going
I
to give you
know
anything.
the subject lines are so they think it'll be we'll speak to them like
Right.
that, like like they know us.
I'd be more into it if they let him take a stab at sending it.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
check.
Yeah,
He's-
that would be great.
He's gonna say malarkey. He loves that.
That
word.
alley cat
Alley
thing was
cat.
so pathetic, dude. I keep hearing it. I don't know where you
So
were last
funny.
night. I was
Yeah.
talking 90 minutes with a guy with the ethics of an alley cat. If he said it with the fucking cunt, if he said something.
It would
Yeah.
have been beautiful.
Oh my God. You know he curses. All these. Just curse.
Just curse.
Just
Yeah.
curse.
Yeah.
Because the first one to curse, people go,
Oh.
whoa, he's a real guy.
Yeah.
This guy means business.
Yeah.
Do you have this got to stop?
Yeah, I wrote 3. Do we want
Sure,
just
go for it.
just
No, go for it.
one?
Go for it.
I mean, I don't know. Let me know if this has been done before. But fucking QR code menus,
You don't like them.
I hate them.
It's
hate
not going to
'em.
stop.
I
It's not going
like
to stop.
the
guys.
idea that did anything. They're like, because of COVID, we now have QR code menus. I'm like, that. Well, one, I went to a restaurant recently where they handed me a printed out. I'm like,
QR code.
this is
Yeah.
just write. You're already printing stuff out. Write the menu items on that.
Yeah.
Like there was my buddy Grant like posted this photo online. He saw like it was like the opening closing hours and then a QR code, and he's like, "No, you just tell me when the fucking store is open and closed."
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
also
That's
got
a good one.
receipts,
Okay. Yeah.
paper receipts.
Ooh.
If you can if everything's a QR code, why am I now having paper receipts that you're handing me?
I'll add on to that. Signing your name. Like, what
Sure.
the fuck are we
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
there? Why do we need to keep doing that?
Yeah.
Especially when you do it online and you type in your name,
Yeah.
you go, well, okay, so this isn't
And
real.
then it cursives it sometime, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, so I signed that. You're
Yeah.
gonna check that against my ID,
Right.
Yeah.
There was it's something on like for like the voting ballot. It's like they're like this signature must match the signature on your voting record, and I'm like, I have had so many different
many
signatures.
signatures,
Like
yeah.
I don't know.
I've signed so much merch in the last like couple of years. I now have a signature.
you got one.
But it's also like it's a little much for a license.
yeah.
It,
Yeah.
like it goes off the card.
Yeah.
There's the dot all the way outside of the rectangle.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So what would you rather have? No receipts, QR code menus, or menus and receipts
Now
and no
I'd
trees?
get rid of receipts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate receipts too. Yeah, because I always just clump.
I've
put it right on the table.
never.
That
And then
works.
also the idea that like I get it if it's cash and I need to return it and then there's no record of it. But like the idea that you need a receipt to return something now is I'm like, you have a record of my credit card company has a record of
Yeah.
it. You have a record
It's just so
of
they
it.
cannot take your
Yeah,
receipt.
exactly.
It's all bullshit.
It's vestigial.
One more. You have the
Oh
third one?
yeah. And then it's just people saying, you don't remember me, do you? Because I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm going to figure it out from context clues if
Yeah.
you give me a goddamn second.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would never be.
Or just tell
tell
me.
you your name.
or just
yeah.
say your name.
Yeah.
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 Sure. Do you have a bad memory for names?
Yes.
We're not
Yeah.
great. BriTAnnick's
Horrible.
famously not good.
Horrible.
Both
at
of you.
names.
I mean, we've had some rough times. Yeah, yeah.
I've also made the mistake. Like I've had some real whiffs where I talk to a person for 30 minutes. I've figured it out from context clues. I get cocky and I end the conversation with their first and last name, and they're like, "That is not who I am."
What?
There is
What?
there
You
is
just
a-
to show off?
And I was just like, I guess goodbye forever. There's
Yeah.
no coming back from this.
I wish we could say one of the ones, but I don't want to say the name.
What?
The one at the ECNYs is the one.
Yeah,
my
that's what I was
favorite.
thinking
yeah,
of,
yeah,
too.
that one was.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll bleep it out. We'll
I
bleep
mean,
it out.
it's basically exactly that. I just said, I mean, it was, I said, I forget who I said it to, but I said, and she was like, "What? I am not." And I was
With
like,
that like vibe, like we're being my BFF.
Well, you know what happens? Because I'm terrible.
Oh God.
I'm terrible. I wonder if you're worse than me.
I
but-
think I've gotten worse, but you seeing you and being like, you get a look in your eye that you need help.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, because sometimes someone will, will be like recognize me from TikTok thing, and because I'm so scared that I've forgotten people, I sometimes
Act like you know them.
act like them know them in a way where if it looks like they're about to give me a hug, I'll give them a hug, and then we start talking. I'm like, you don't know me.
yeah.
And like, this is so weird that I hugged you,
Yeah.
and it was awful. And then every time Tova has to ask me after, she goes, "So was that real?" She asked me every time, "Was that real? Did you know who that was?" And I'm usually like,
yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an added, like the fact that you getting recognized also, so that the person, you may never have met them, that's an element to also navigate is insane.
I think it's
Yeah.
it is a real, they say Bill Clinton like knew everyone's name.
Yeah.
We worked, that's Alex Brightman. He's like a
yeah,
Broadway guy.
yeah.
Sure.
Beetlejuice.
So we did it was a rehearsal of our sketch team. He was guesting. This was a Zoom show during COVID.
Yeah.
And we're having a Zoom rehearsal, and Alex sees one of our sketch partners' husband in the background and goes, "Oh my God, Max!"
Yeah.
And they had gone to a summer camp when they
And
were like in
like,
8th grade,
it was
and he
like-
remembered what song he sang, and I was
Yeah.
like, "That's
Yeah.
part of why you got to where you got."
It's a great skill.
Yeah.
People feel so
People
flattered.
feel special. People
I
feel
want that
Consistently
so
the
badly.
superpower I say I would want.
Yeah.
People were like, if you could have a superpower, it's like I'd be able to remember everyone's name.
Yeah.
And it's led to me, I don't even use people's names anymore because I've been so traumatized by getting it wrong so spectacularly.
It's
that-
crazy what you're
Yeah.
trying to do.
Yeah.
One of the worst football, because I would host comedy shows a lot, and I was terrible with names, and sometimes I wouldn't have the lineup down. And I remember the worst thing that happened in my head was
You just did the gun to your head.
I mean, truly, it was two. I had met these two Indian comics at the same time. But here's what's worse. Here's what's worse. I didn't mix them up. I didn't see one and go, oh, it's the other one. I only remembered the other one's name, and in a moment of sheer panic, I just decided to call him his friend's name, knowing that's the worst option on the table.
Yeah.
And it was bad.
It was bad.
And you know the thing, as like a white person, when you do a faux pas like that, you like over apologize, and you don't even know how much to apologize because now you're making it their burden to like make you feel better.
Yeah.
It was so humiliating. And Bassam Shawl, I forgive me. I now know your name.
It'd be so funny if you were
just
wrong.
don't do it.
It'd be so
Or
funny.
you're like, listen. So sorry.
This has got to stop.
I have one. I was thinking about this. This bothers me to no end. It happened to me yesterday. I wonder if it bothers you guys as much. It's bathrooms often in coffee shops or bars, not like a big bathroom with a lot of stalls, a singular bathroom with no bolt lock. You know what I'm talking about? The ones where the locks are just like the one I did yesterday, push a button, or it's like the one I did yesterday. I fucking hate this, where it's like here's the knob and there's like a horizontal and you have to turn it vertical to lock it. But it was vertical meant open in this one and horizontal meant locked in this one yesterday, which was like opposite of what I think it is.
Sure.
And then the toilets across the bathroom, like facing the door, like 10 feet away, just in case like someone opened it up, you're like,
so far.
you're
Yeah.
dead. Like
Yeah.
that's it. I'm just sort of like, a bolt costs $7 at Home Depot and like a few minutes of labor. Like I just always want like a thunk that I can like test to make sure the door can't open. Cause it's like,
Don't trust it.
I was in a coffee shop in LA one time, and it was one of these like button doors, and I opened it up, and the toilet was across the room, and there was a 45-year-old man on the toilet, and he was like, please, please stop. And I just like closed the door, and I got my laptop and I left because I was like, there's no way I'm going to look at that
see
guy.
that guy, yeah.
And it's like, I'm in fear sitting on a toilet when I can't see a bolt locking that door. I hate it so much.
The worst is the handles where it's like there's nothing on it, but it's like you push the handle in and turn it.
and turn
it's
it.
like, how am I supposed to figure that
I'm always
out?
sitting on the toilet like thinking like, wait, did I lock it? Or I can't even tell if I did or not.
Yeah.
If I ever start a coffee shop, there's going to be a fucking
Has there ever
like.
been written a scene where someone accidentally walks in, like something like that, but it's like an old, long lost friend? It's like, oh my
no,
God.
that's
It's like,
funny.
please.
Yeah.
Oh
my God.
that's sweet.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Let's go on to our final segment.
You better count your blessings.
You better count your blessing. Real quick before we get into this, let me just say again, join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. I'm trying to talk Russell into, as a Patreon treat, doing a popper at the end of the episode.
Who sings?
Douglas
Goodhart.
from Uncle R sketch.
He's on our sketch
Function.
team and great musician.
Yeah,
Great
wow.
musician.
Very funny.
Yeah.
And occasionally co-host when Russell is out. He's going to be co-hosting our episode with Amber Heard
Next week.
next week.
With Amber
Amber Heard?
Heard?
I always mix
Amber
up.
Ruffin?
Amber Ruffin.
Sarah
I was like,
Benincasa.
And Johnny Depp.
Amber Heard!
I was like, wow.
Welcome to the show. You see what I mean? You see what I mean?
We got
I'm
Amber
also
Heard.
like, has she done an interview? I was like,
We got
wait,
Amber
this
Heard
is
and Johnny Depp. We're gonna bring them together and talk it out.
You're following BriTANick with Amber Heard.
She's got to make sure the door's locked before she shits on the bed. That would be a good get.
Yeah.
You never know.
Sure.
You never know. You know, you never know.
What's the dream get for your podcast? What's the
Yeah,
big?
well, Amber Heard now.
I mean, things have changed in this last second.
First of all, let me just say, Caroline Calloway message just said, the downside, me, when? And I said, anytime.
Yeah.
And then she sent her number. We texted nothing.
Nothing.
But
Okay.
real power move.
Wow.
Just the downside.
She's the alpha
me,
now.
When?
When?
Yeah. Anytime, Carolyn. A blessing.
Yeah. I'm going on vacation on Friday. Well, hopefully, if Barbados is still there, they're in the midst of a hurricane. That's where I'm supposed to be going. So praying for Barbados. Hopefully everything is good. We're gonna have to.
It's pretty selfish
We're
prayer.
gonna have to delete this out if anything bad happens to them. But I'm excited for vacation. So
I'm scared now.
I think it's okay. Nicole's dad is still there, and he like sent videos, and it's seeming like it's a direct hit. It's a Category 4, but I think he seems to be okay right now.
All right.
So praying.
Good luck.
My blessing. My girlfriend. She had her birthday, and what's so nice is all my girlfriend's friends. I get along with them all, and it's such a perfect reflection of why I'm like Tova and I were on so much of a similar wavelength as people, that all the people that she is close to, I like, and sometimes I go like, are these my friends? And I know they're not, but I kind of wish they were. But I know if we ever broke up, they would wish my death. It's tough to know in the back of my head that no matter what, that's true.
Yeah, it is conditional, even though it doesn't seem it. It seems like you've reached the point where we're family, but there's one little thing that could happen where.
And I don't think it's true the other way around. I think. I mean, I know if Tova and I broke up, you'd leave her management company immediately, and I really appreciate you doing that.
It's so cool of you, man.
But I know all my guy friends would be like, "Hey, how are you doing?"
And
not the other way around.
Yeah,
but they're great, and it was such a fun birthday, and I also have like friends of hers that I did acid with for the first time, and like
this
we're
weekend?
doing shrooms. No, acid. I don't know if ever again. It was very intense. Yeah, I was good, but it was enough. And they're like my drug buddies.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
That's sweet.
So it was very, very good time. We went to a little spa on Governor's Island, and I got Taylor Ortega. I surprised Tova with Taylor Ortega flew to New York.
Yeah,
and we surprised her at Russ and Daughters.
Yeah,
I got a reservation at Russ and Daughters. You're not allowed to get reservations, but I wrote them, and they said you can come in. But they said
you wrote a letter,
email,
or
Instagram. You know,
got it.
I said, look at these followers.
Yeah.
And they said you can come in. They said, but don't use the R word when you come in.
What?
I came in and I said, Gianmarco Soresi.
Reservation.
I was like,
you're
did you
R1?
say it in the message? Why do they think that?
We just had an issue with people just rushing through our doors screaming at
Gianmarco
recently.
Soresi, mentally disabled for 3. And we got in. So it was a good time. Great birthday. I didn't fuck anything up too bad.
That's great.
Do you have a blessing?
Brian, you go
Do you have
first.
a blessing?
Okay. This is sort of a generic blessing. I was thinking I'm really grateful for women who work in department stores or clothing stores that are coached to just tell me that I look handsome in whatever I put on. I didn't understand this when I was in my early 20s. I thought I was just like all these like really beautiful businesswomen thought I was like super hot or something. And then I learned from girls like, oh no, this is just what they do. And I know the game. I know the gambit. I know I'm being hoodwinked every time. I always buy whatever hat or coat I'm wearing that they say I look great in. And I love it. I love it so much. I sometimes go and buy a piece of clothing when I'm feeling down. I go find a woman who works at the department store to tell me I look great in it. I'll spend way too much money on it. I'll go into debt. But it just makes me feel good for months afterwards. So whatever that sort of ad gambit is, keep it going. I'm a fan.
See, that's nice. I get frustrated because I say to them like, I'm like, okay, but really?
Yeah,
Can you
no.
tell me though, please, because like, please.
No, you just got. I'd take it and run with it. I'm like, they love me. Oh my god, this like oversized Scooby Doo jacket from Target. I look amazing in.
I don't want to interact with any
Me either.
salespeople. I like it if I can get into the dressing room private. I like if no one knows that I was at the store. That's great.
I'm not going to buy something unless someone tells me I look great in it. I will go find someone.
I do need someone to tell me if a clothing looks okay or not.
Yeah.
I don't trust. I'll send pictures to friends.
I send pictures. Yes.
The fact that you called it a
pictures,
clothing, it's
clothing.
So last time Tony and I went shopping, like it was one of those things that was like, she was about to come in the dressing room and they were like, no, you can't go. I'm like, listen, guys, we're not gonna fucking hear. Okay, I'm having an anxiety attack about what baggy pants look like.
I can't believe they stopped that.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
That's what I think's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And see, I mean, if it happens once, you
I
kind of
do
just gotta
wonder how often it's happening. though.
Yeah, I guess so.
in movies. People love doing
What's the same
it.
with like Equinox people fucking in the steam room?
Well,
Are they?
that's a steam room. That's a different situation.
No, it's like a real issue. I personally,
It's at Crunch. It's Crunch. The West Hollywood Crunch is where it's a situation.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen it happen, but I'm probably
I'd be thrilled if I opened it and I was like, my god, it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
not
at
it's
a
far
Planet
enough away.
Fitness.
Planet Fitness. They're fucking right on the machines in Planet Fitness and the vibrating chair. Do you have a blessing?
Yes, but it connects, I suppose. The Russian Turkish baths on 10th Street.
Oh.
We're just in town for the weekend, and I went there yesterday and cooked myself up good, and I felt so good afterwards.
So what has it got? Hot tub?
Oh,
hot
no.
room.
It's got cold tub. It's got the coldest cold plunge in the war.
And you're doing it.
I do it.
You
Yes.
do it?
It's crucial. If you don't do, like, that's part of the
What happens
recipe.
if you don't do it?
You don't feel as good.
Oh.
I mean, you feel really bad during it, but then afterwards,
Yeah.
it's what they've got a Russian room is what it's called, which is a room that is so fucking hot you would not believe it. We were just talking about this yesterday that I was like, the first time I went into this room, I was like, surely not, right? The room is broken and has gotten too hot.
Yeah.
And
How long you staying there?
I mean, I don't
Get
know.
out as soon as possible. It's crazy.
I can't
there.
tell you. I would say I must have been in there for like a full week, but it was probably like 2.5
You
minutes.
stay in there longer than I've ever been
Yeah.
able to handle
Yeah.
it. Some
Oh,
guys
you guys
tried
went
to do-
together.
Nick
Yeah,
took
yeah.
me once and I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know, this is my thing. But some guys like sit on the topmost bench and just like
Yeah.
meditate for an hour, and they're those guys that like this
Oh.
is,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
I guess good on you, but that's not in my path.
Yeah, I was in Finland years ago, and the saunas there are even crazier. Like, you have to wear a hat or your hair will catch on fire. It's that hot. Like
crazy.
These things would be like,
Yeah.
no, but it is really good for you. I'm like, is the science settled on this?
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
we sure that
I would completely
yourself.
believe if they were like, "Oh no, it's actually very bad." I'd be like, "Yeah, well, that
Remember,
makes
this
sense."
is the guy who wiped piss on his face
Yes.
to get rid of the pimples.
that is true? I have to remember.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
we wanted to do a sketch in a sauna. Where
yeah.
our sketch idea was
sketch
like,
idea
I'm
was
the
it-
alpha of the relationship. We go to a sauna, we find out he has a much bigger dick,
And it
and our
completely
entire
changes
relationship
the dynamic
changes.
of
Nice.
the of
And
the
at the end, you
friendship.
hit me. He said, "Shut up, bitch."
Wait, you're in a romantic relationship?
No,
Just a
just
friendship.
But
Gotcha.
Yeah,
it,
but
like,
just like the real Dom.
really
And it-
flips.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
classic
yeah.
shut up bitch punch
Yeah.
button
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sketch
yeah.
comedy.
Or
Yeah.
the real is instead of a slap, it's a dick.
It's a dick.
just a quick dick.
You know the
across.
Chekhov's dick. If you see a big dick, you gotta slap it
You gotta
across someone's
slap
face.
someone's face.
Yeah.
Is there a dildo still here in this pocket right here?
I really hope so.
Move
you
a little.
got something.
Move to your side.
Jesus, that's been there the whole time.
It's the noodle from your dad's back.
It feels like you're playing. Oh my god.
It's Natalie Palamides here.
So you have that. Some people have like a gun hidden in case there's an intruder.
Can we take a picture here because the editor's gonna have to censor this part too. By the way, guys, now that we'll do our plugs, we are touring. We started our tour,
Yeah.
and I think we have trivia in the tour, and I've bought 4 of these. And if you win the trivia, you're getting one
Signed.
sucked by both of us.
Oh my god.
Wait, do it now.
So there's 4 in that couch.
Just one. There's 3 in a bag over there. It was for a sketch I did that didn't work.
Did not
About a
work.
guy who everyone has a fidget spinner, and his fidget spinner happens to be this.
That didn't work.
It's funny at first.
It was
But
funny at first.
how long can this
Yeah,
last?
yeah.
A full runner? Turns out no.
Could it? Well, what if you like? It's like you then switch to a different fidget spinner, and it's I don't know.
I
height
said
name?
fleshlight.
Yeah.
I said
Yeah.
fleshlight would be the second beat.
Or like
and the girl brings out a fleshlight and everyone goes, ew, gross.
Yeah. Could have. We didn't try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
did you do it live or did you film this?
Oh, we did it
did it
live.
live.
And the last.
Remember that show I was talking about
last-
earlier where at the end of the show, I said, well, that fucking... Oh,
Yeah.
no, we didn't do it there. We did it the run through
yeah.
and cut it.
Yeah, we cut it.
Lauren just looked at me and said,
That
no.
the last one, the last runner too, like he had no one else on stage. It was just you.
the
had to go out. and we
the
knew.
third beat with the runner was it's my dad's funeral, and I like really went back. Tried to get emotional, and I went out there. I said, "My dad, I'm sorry. Give me a second." And then out of my suit jacket, and it's just as silent as it's in this room right now.
How did the first beat work?
The first beat started to be okay, and then
I
it just
could
went
imagine
on
it
too long.
it hitting when you bring it out.
Hit.
Yeah.
Initially, it hit, and then it was like, oh, we have 3 more minutes of this.
Yeah.
Right.
It was too long.
Yeah, how do you build? Ultimately, the funny thing
It
is
made us
dildo,
laugh when we were doing it.
and then it's a little funnier as you stretch it and slap it and whatever.
Yeah.
But then what?
Yeah. I feel like
We are sketch masters, so we
Yeah,
should probably
yeah,
be able
yeah.
to figure out the third beat of
Yeah.
this.
Tell me.
Dildo fidget spinner heightening. I don't know. You've kind of stuck me here. We'll figure it out.
I
and
could
text it to
see
you.
why it didn't work at a funeral because it's like not a normal place where you would have a fidget spinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you're kind of like putting too many things going on.
But
So
like
the second
start
beat-
you
this.
do need to. I think you need to. The prop needs to heighten. It's like you know.
The second beat was business meeting. Everyone is now doing it, and business is booming, and they're
Oh,
always
yeah,
The,
that's
the
not
issue is
bad.
after the
Yeah.
first hit of this, why is it still funny that you're
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
spinning a
Is
dick?
Yeah.
Like it's a funny thing to do, but then like why does it maintain being funny?
I don't know if this works, but it's the next beat of it is like instead of chewing gum, you're chewing a rubbery dildo.
Sure. Again, putting in mouth would definitely that would make it funny. I forget if I had one other. Oh, but would be fun though. That I was hoping is if it had worked later in a sketch, someone would be stressed about something and just whip it out casually. It's a great callback device.
Yeah,
For a
you almost
little
want to
internal
hide
sketch.
the moment that it comes back out instead of. Yeah,
I feel like if it got a big enough laugh, you could just do a single beat of it almost, and then a callback to it.
I'm sorry. How's it introduced? The first beat.
The first beat is like this. The boss comes in and says, I want to apologize. I understand you millennials have your anxiety and whatever. So whatever tools you need. And someone goes, thank you. And they have their clicker. Or someone has bubble tape. Someone has the fidget spinner. And then I come out and it's just.
Yeah. I think maybe you want to make it one scene.
Could they see it was clearly a dildo? Because when you're shaking it
they
around,
could see
it's
it.
Okay.
I think you want to find places also to rest that game. Like you play that and it's like, I feel like you want people to be like, hey, this is like not appropriate or something. And you basically having a moment where you're like, I need this. Like basically being like, this is my for my anxiety, and everyone goes like, okay, it's fine. And then the next time you use it, it gets more. Maybe then you have to start using it with your mouth or something. And then it's like you keep having.
But then the third beat, ultimately, I got to put it in my ass.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But then
Another
it's like,
thing you could explore is like, well, what happens when you don't use it? And it's like it's so much worse.
right?
Sure.
Like whatever
when you're
you
not
like
using it, it's just
screaming
like-
or whatever.
Just start
You know.
slamming my head
Yeah.
on the desk.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right.
Okay,
use
yeah.
it.
What I think I want to see here is like you needing this and really playing it like, hey, I'm a person who is neurodivergent, and this like calms me, and having other people be like, okay, I guess we need to let Gianmarco have his thing, and like keep coming back to that. So then when you have to shove it up your ass, it's almost like on them for how dare they tell you to not do this. Like we're really feeling.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it looks like we're only giving 3 dildos away, so we can keep one for the second try.
Also, has anyone ever told you, because you pointed this out one time, who you sound like when you speak? I don't know if you've ever gotten this, but Nick said
Wait,
this.
I forget. I remember saying
He's an idol
something.
of ours. We went to go see him one time after I gave you those shoes.
Oh yeah.
You have a pattern and speaking style similar to David Copperfield.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing I have in common with David Copperfield.
Well, it's also like
Really?
David
I saw it pointed
Copperfield
out and I
from
was like,
back
oh my
in the
God.
day. Because
Okay, as long as back in the day, because I saw him in Vegas and we had a whole episode. We had to cut this whole segment because we had a magician on, and they were like,
oh,
I can't be on record speaking ill of David Copperfield.
Yeah.
It was the worst show I'd ever seen.
Yeah,
we saw it in Vegas too, and I
Did
was
he
like,
do his pattern like where he's reading from the teleprompter? Because we saw him when he was just like monotone.
it was monotone and it was light speed. It was like he had a dinner reservation that he needed to make
what
because
was
it was
your
just like
experience?
It was about his dad dying.
Yeah, he had one of
And
those.
the animatronic, and it was this incredible, like, someone get this man a therapist, where it was like he went back in time, and ultimately his father, he read a letter that he clearly wrote from his father excusing him for being too busy with fame to visit him in his final moments.
Yeah, I remember the dad.
And you're just like, oh my God, buddy. And something's wrong with his back. So he was like walking around like this.
God.
Yeah.
And like at some point, someone's sister had died who loved David Copperfield. So they brought him up.
Yeah, I remember
and it
that.
was
Yeah.
so deeply unemotional. It
and
was awful.
fake that because they did
That's
it at our
fake?
show.
Yeah, that kid is like
No.
not real. Yeah.
Maybe so, but then
Yeah,
the
yeah.
kid is a part of
It's
the
a-
show.
it's a
They make
plan.
it seem like he's like, oh, it's just like, okay, so is he just fully part of the
I don't know,
show
we
now
watched the
because
kid
he's
at the
in
end,
multiple?
Like the kid like did this at the end, and like
Yeah.
the lights came down, and I was like, oh, the
Yeah.
kid is part of the show.
Maybe his sister did die, but it's like they were like, let's find some actor whose sister died and
Watch 90s Copperfield specials
Yeah.
back when he was suave and cool and dating models. That's who you
Okay.
I know. I think you'll still hate it.
Sure. I like magic though.
I love magic.
Yeah.
I hope we didn't ruin your day with that. It's
No, we'll see when I watch it. What would you like to plug again? This is coming out July 23rd.
I guess. Well, I mean, we're performing live a bunch. We're gonna go to Scotland and do the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
If you're in Scotland, come see us at the Edinburgh Fringe.
The full month.
July
Full month.
31st through August 25th. So
It's
yep.
it's our new hour of live sketch show. It's like all interwoven and
What are you doing with the last hour? Are you going to film it?
yeah,
We're gonna film it this next year. Yeah.
possibly for a streaming service, but one of the lesser ones.
Don't say
one
that.
one of the smallest ones.
But we love them.
But we
They're
love
amazing.
them deeply.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Sure.
but
yes, if
it's
that
not 100%
falls
confirmed.
through, which I don't
The
think
new
it will.
cracked streaming service.
yeah.
But if push comes to shove, we
You're
just
not-
film it on our own.
You're
and
not
release
far
it.
off.
Sure. Send me the pilot. Can I watch it?
Sure.
Yes, we'll send you
Okay.
the pilot, and then you should tell us if we should release it.
And then
Okay,
also,
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
subscribe to our Patreon.
Oh, yeah, we have a Patreon.
Brian will do poppers at the end of our episodes. You know,
yeah.
we could do a crossover.
What do you want to plug, Russell?
Well, I guess plug the tour comes out. We're on tour this week. It's the 23rd. We're in DC. Tomorrow we'll be in Boston. And then Thursday we'll be in Philadelphia. Friday in New York City Winery. Come see us live.
Yes, and I will also be in LA doing my new material show at Elysian Theatre July 28th, and then I'm off to Australia. So if you're in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Perth, or Auckland, I will be there. And then after that, Grand Rapids, Michigan. So come check it out.
Yeah.
Join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. And I wish I'm not good at coming up with it. You come up with an end for once.
Why me?
Like some cool
You
callback.
always finish it.
What was the name of your book?
The highly sensitive child.
Thank you for listening to For Highly Sensitive Children.
Yeah.
This is the downside.
You nailed it.
You're listening to The Downside
The Downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.